Born to be wild.
Hello and welcome back, everybody, to Born to be Wild and our United in Stormwind card review show from a wild perspective. We have recorded so long that we lost Hydra. He had to leave to do family stuff. So Sheep and I will handle the rest of the set from here on out. So we still have Rogue, Shaman, Warlock, Warrior, and Neutral. We will do our best to do these before the day is through.
And eventually we will unearth Hydra from the basement underneath Stormwind.
Right? Okay, well, let's get started.
Yeah. So we're starting out in Rogue with Loan Shark. Loan Shark is a 3-mana 3/4 beast with Battle Cry. Give your opponent a coin. And Death Rattle, you get 2. So the flavor of Loan Shark is on point. It's a shark. It gives your opponent a loan, a coin. Unfortunately, it doesn't then take mana or coins from them. You just get coins. So it's, 3-mana 3/4 is decent tempo, but you give your opponent a coin. So it enables them to kind of get ahead. And then the Death Rattle is you get 2. It just seems like you're giving your opponent an advantage. And then eventually you get a little bit of a better advantage, but it kind of doesn't seem like it's worth it to me, truthfully. Particularly in Wild, like that's just in a vacuum. In Wild, we want to be doing Kingsbane things. We want to be doing Odd Rogue things. This is odd, but I'd rather be dropping a Hinch Clan Thug or buffing my weapon or drawing all of the cards. So love the flavor, but the impact just isn't really there.
Yeah.
What do you think, Nate?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think the big downside to this is like, I don't like giving my opponent stuff. And it's like, hey, if you both get it at the same time, okay. Because then I can use it. But what invariably happens is like, I play this and then my opponent's going to silence it or send it back to my hand or, I'd rather do just about anything in Rogue than play this. And I feel bad because the card itself is cool. The art is cool. The idea, the theme and all that is cool. But I don't like the card. So I tend to score it pretty low. It's cute, though.
Yeah. So as for the rating, I'm going to give it a 1. I think it would be a lot better if it then took something away from them rather than just, because that's how loans work. But
yeah. You get 1 and you pay 2. That's how it should work, right?
How do you rate Loan Shark, Nate?
I rated it a 1.
0 surprises there.
Yeah.
That brings us into the first Si7 card. So Si7 Operative. Si7 Operative is a 3-mana 2/4 minion with Rush. After this attacks a minion, gain Stealth. So you can immediately attack, so you can immediately get Stealth, but you've only got 2 attack and 4 health with 3 mana. It's impactful, and then you can hide it to then make your own value trades, but let's be real, it's probably going to die with the initial attack, and if it doesn't, then it's not super impactful. I like the flavor. I like that, kind of like all ninja-y, like agents and stuff like that. We may end up running this if we're running an Si7 deck. But if we can cut any of the Si7 cards and still have an Si7 deck, this is probably the one that we cut. What do you think, Nate?
Yeah, I mean, it's always fun to me to see new archetypes, and I feel like Si7 is a new archetype in Standard. And it's not like we go to Wild and there's a bunch of Si7 cards to build a Wild version of the deck. Like, the only other card we have is Si7 Agent, and I think that's
Infiltrator. Destroy a random enemy secret.
Oh, gotcha. Okay, well, Not, I don't think that is good enough to make a Wild version of this deck. The theme of it is super fun, and honestly, I think it's probably not bad in Standard. It's probably pretty good in Standard. Looking at all the various like Si7 cards, but in Wild, like you got to be fast, you got to be aggressive, you got to be doing the things, and like the strong decks, you're going to be your Kingsbane and your Odd Rogue, and potentially there's some Death Rattle stuff that we might get into. Yeah. But this Si7, like, hey, it's super cool. Not going to be good in Wild. So that's my kind of hot take on the next like 5 cards.
Yeah, I don't know. There may be enough there to, cram into another shell. But if we're doing that, I don't think that we're running Si7 Operative if we can afford to cut it. And so I gave it a 1. It sounds like you did too.
I did too. The card in a vacuum is not bad. 3 mana, 2/4 rush stealth. Like, hey, that's not bad. But I just don't see it seeing play. I give it a 1.
Cool.
All right.
That brings us to our next Si7 card, which is Si7 Informant. We may end up running Si7 Operative to pay off in cards like Si7 Informant, which is a 4 mana 3/3 with Battlecry, gain +1/+1 for each Si7 card you've played this game. So if we've only played 1, boom, all of a sudden it's a 4 mana 4/4. If we've played 5, it's a 4 mana 8/8. That's pretty sick. There aren't kind of a critical mass of Si7 cards that actually make it worth probably running any of these, but this one I think is a little bit more roguelike than the Si7 Operative in that this reminds me of Edwin, right?
Yeah.
I love the flavor. The Si7 Informant looking like Aragorn in the tavern, like, is pretty sick.
Oh yeah,
right. But there are way more impactful things to be doing in Wild. But it's a cool new archetype that if they continue printing Si7 cards, maybe eventually we'll have enough to do stuff within Wild. But I'm not holding my breath.
I will say the one tricky thing for me is, okay, so they say that Si7 is it's almost like a new card type, or like tribe, if you will, right?
Yeah.
Except they don't print a tribe at the bottom of the card. And so I get a little bit confused as, hey, what's an Si7 card? And where, like, okay, it's in the title, Si7 Informant, Si7 Operative. But, like, if we're looking at this thematically and we look at the quest and then all the quest rewards, and what if I complete the quest and I get these 5 cards? Like, are those Si7 cards? I don't know. Probably not, because they don't say Si7 on them, but maybe. Like, I don't know. It's interesting to me that they made tribe synergy without a tribe.
Yeah,
I guess is what I'm trying to say. Like,
they've done that once before.
Oh, what was it?
With Treants.
Oh, yeah.
But then they gave it a tribe. No, they still don't have tribes.
Oh, do they not? Oh.
No, but they're all called Treant. They're all absolutely called Treant, even though they have different art, which is, kind of cool. These are all obviously differently titled cards. So,
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's talk about scores.
I want to give this a 2 because it has some sort of possibility potentially in the distant future. But this is a 1 for me. How about you, Nate?
Yeah, me too. I mean, it sees potential. Like, it's good in this archetype for standard, but like just not here. So I gave it a 1 as well.
Cool. That brings us into the rares with Si7 Extortion. So Si7 Extortion is a 1 mana rogue spell. It's tradable. And it reads, deal 3 damage to an undamaged character. So kind of like the Galakron card, that 3 mana, deal 3 damage to an undamaged character. This does the same thing for 2 less mana. Talk about power creep. And it's tradable. It doesn't invoke Galakron, which is, a bit of a detriment, but it seems like a really strong removal card, and it's versatile in being able to be traded, and it's only 1 mana, so you can weave it in with, different things that require combos and stuff like that, which is pretty cool. What do you think about Si7 Extortion?
It's really good in the Si7 archetype and probably really good in standard. I love that it's tradable. Deal 3 damage is great. I made a note here, like, it's sad that it can't go face, and then I have in parentheses, well, once, you know, if they're at full health, right? And so I don't see an issue with it, but I guess the problem that I'm having is like, all right, where do I stick it in? Like, I prefer rogue spells that don't have the contingencies. Like, we'll get to some in a moment, but like, deal 2 damage to anything, do 4 damage to anything or whatever, and not just an undamaged character. And so this is a little bit more limited. I could see myself like sitting on this card, and maybe I don't want to trade it because I want to be able to kill a minion when they play it. I don't know. Like, instantly drop this into the standard archetype, though, for sure. So.
Yeah. Absolutely. So as for ratings, I'm going to give Si7 Extortion a straight up 2 because I think it's a little bit more versatile, even though we're not really going to be playing them in Si7 Extortion in particular, and pretty much anything. It's super playable. If you know, you need a budget version of something. So
yeah,
it's there.
Yeah,
what do you think?
2. I agree with the 2. A score of a 2, I think, is good. I mean, it's definitely a playable card. I typically will reserve 1 for like unplayable. Oh yeah, you could throw this in something for sure. And the tradable on there is kind of cool. So say I'm run this thing, whatever. I love the idea I can throw it back and get something different. That works particularly well, I think, even in Rogue, right? Where I want to be drawing cards all the time. So, yep, that's 2 for me.
And now we get to the exciting ones.
Yeah,
Here is Sketchy Informant. Sketchy Informant is a 3-mana rogue spell that reads, draw a death rattle card that costs 4 or less. Trigger its death rattle. So tutor draw is good. It limits it to 4 or less. Since Hydra was kind of initially behind the scenes going to be taking the lead on this, I hadn't done a whole lot of research as to the different things that we were looking to tutor with this.
I know.
But Nate did. So the one that I thought of course, was Angry Bird, right? Definitely want to put that in there to mess with our opponents' Highlander mechanics. But I'm way more interested to hear where you would take Sketchy Informant.
Bro, it's Cobalt Illusionist is the 4-mana 3/3 death rattle, summon a 1/1 copy of a minion from your hand. So this is when we get into those big rogue shenanigans, when like that deck that Dane popularized like many moons ago, and you know, you pull a giant death rattle thing from your hand. It works for the dragons, it works for the Shadow Moon or the Colossus, right? And some, is it the Elemental Colossus, whatever it's called, Scrapyard Colossus.
Scrapyard, yeah.
Some stuff like that. Like we could do some shenanigans with this, and so Cobalt Illusionist, and then, or you think then the Cobalt Illusionist pulls Maligos. Like there's some crazy stuff that you can do. So I'm excited about this potentially reviving that archetype. That archetype was never bad. It just wasn't quite good enough. Like I could probably take it to D5. You know, could I hit Legend with it? Maybe. I kind of doubt it. There's a lot of swing turns because you could do some crazy things. Like you're playing giant death rattle stuff. You're playing some cubes. You're playing some whatever. And when we start talking about the weapon in a minute, I'll compare it to another weapon in that old archetype. So I think there's some potential here. I don't know how good it's going to be, but I think it's viable even for ladder climbing. I think it might be actually pretty okay. So I'm not like any kind of rogue specialist, but I think it'll be fun and potentially not bad. So yeah, I like this quite a bit. I think it's going to be pretty strong, and I think it revives that old archetype that hasn't seen play in a long time.
Absolutely. So as for scores, um, tutor draw, positive effect, something you obviously want to be doing, perhaps even enabling a combo. I think I'm going to go 3. I don't think I can quite go 4 with it just because that's not particularly meta, but like if that becomes meta, I won't be too terribly surprised. So it's a really strong 3 for me. How about you, Nate?
Yeah, I give it a 4. I think that this is like the card that we needed to like reignite that old deck. And like the deck was so close to being playable that we have a couple of more tools now that I think makes it solid. It's not solid like tier 1, but solid like maybe low tier 2 or mid tier 3, something like that. Like I think it might be legit. So, we'll see. We'll see.
Nice. Well, that brings us to Si7 Assassin. Si7 Assassin is a 7 mana 4/4. That sounds pretty bad. But it reads, cost 1 less for each Si7 card you've played this game. Okay, gets cheaper. But it has the combo destroy an enemy minion. Okay, so we play 2 other Si7 minions or cards, because it says cards. 2 other Si7 cards, and it's just a strictly better Vile Spine Slayer. We play 3 or more, and it's cheaper and better Vile Spine Slayer. Si7 Assassin is one of the biggest payoffs for the Si7 archetype, which is definitely a standard thing. This is a really powerful card.
Not in Wild.
Yeah.
Yeah, the card is rad.
Yeah, if we continue getting Si7 cards printed, then maybe eventually, but yeah, it's not there yet.
Yeah, I feel you there. I basically think the same thing. It's probably relatively easy to reduce the cost of, and the combo is rad, and the theme is great. Hey, this is an assassin, it kills an enemy minion, and the whole Si7 thing, like it's so roguelike in a class that has kind of struggled with identity issues. Like this is really cool. But I think it will be quite strong in standard. It's just not. It's kind of like how Demon Hunter was, early on, because it's like, well, okay, it's all standard. Why would we play it in Wild? There's no wild cards. And that's kind of how this is. Like, okay, the one wild card that I've got is it eats a secret. Okay. And then the other one I think is a core card. So
the one that eats a secret is also now in core 2.
Oh, is it core 2? Then see, okay. Well, then it's all standard then. So whatever. Awesome card. I scored it really low because I just don't see it being viable in Wild, frankly. Like, okay, yeah, please play this, and I will hit you in the face with the 15 attack Kingsbane, and it's just too fast. So that's where I'm at. I mean, I love it. It's great, but I gave it a 1, and I feel bad for that because it's rad. Like if we were scoring for standard, I would score it much higher.
Yeah, I agree on both counts. Both the 1 and standard, it's higher, but also if we continue seeing Si7 cards printed, this could very well be playable later, just not really now.
Yeah, agree. All right, cool. Let us move on.
Yeah, that brings us to Garrosh. Garrosh is a 2 mana rogue spell that reads, deal 2 damage to the enemy hero. Shuffle 3 bleeds into your deck that deal 2 more when drawn. So bleeds are all cast when drawn, deal 2 damage to the enemy hero. So 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2. Sounds a lot like a 2 mana 8 damage card. That's pretty solid. But you have to draw them, and it doesn't do anything else. And even the 1 mana one at least deals 3 initially, and you can run it in odd. Um, I love the flavor of this one because you're, you know, getting them around the neck, and then they just bleed and bleed and bleed, and But
Yeah, that's the tricky part. Like, this is such a rogue thing to do, right? Deal 2 damage, shuffle 3 in, deal 2 more when drawn. Like, it's awesome. It's very cool. I like the artwork. Here's the bleed one. It's very cool. I think the tricky thing is, like, where does it go? Like, I'm not taking stuff out of Kingsbane to stick this in. I mean,
no.
Okay, what does Rogue do really well? Like, yes, I can shuffle stuff and I can cycle through my deck. Like, Miracle Rogue is a thing, and Secret Passage is a great card, and I'm gonna probably find some bleeds when I Secret Passage, which is really cool. But like, Kingsbane, like, that list is tight, and we got some new cards with Forge and the Barons and the mini set. That, you know, we got these poisons, and that changed up the deck a little bit. I could see it changing later down the line if we get unnerves, but like, you know, I struggle to find where to stick this. That's my problem. Like, cool. Let me throw it into a standard deck with all the Si7 stuff, or something where I'm shuffling. Like, I remember, you know, if I want to make a Miracle Rogue deck and I'm shuffling in, you know, that those Darkmoon Fair cards that shuffle in, like, the teddy bears or the Nerubians or whatever, like, yeah, that's cute. But I just don't know where to put it. That's where I really struggle here. It's like, it's really great from a miracle type aspect.
Yeah, it's another tool towards that shuffle rogue archetype that never really quite took. So, you know, you do Elec, you do Garrote, you do the ticket thing that gives you the teddy bears. You know, you do all sorts of things like that. Then you play Stowaway.
Mm-hmm.
You draw either bleeds or the teddy bears. You either deal damage to the hero or your opponent, or you get 3/3s, and then you draw 2 additional cards that you actually did put into your deck.
Yeah.
Because all the ones that you didn't are cast when drawn. Cool. The question is what the shell around that looks like. And that's the part that we don't really have a good answer to here either, which is unfortunate. So I really like the flavor. I really like the possibilities of a future Shuffle Rogue, but it's not there yet. And that's why I have to give Garrote a 1.
Yeah, I give it a 2. It has potential. I just don't know quite where it fits, and the decks are too good right now. I can't figure out where to fit it. And, you know, the theme and the style and the card itself is pretty cool. But,
oh yeah.
All right. Well,
alas. Well, that brings us to Counterfeit Blade. Counterfeit Blade is a 4-mana 4/2 rogue weapon. Its battle cry: gain a random friendly death rattle that triggered this game. So the death rattle itself has to trigger. Oh, hey, would you look at that? The one that we had earlier, the draw dude, where to go, Sketchy Informant, is draw a death rattle card that costs 4 or less, trigger its death rattle. So whether you played it or not, that death rattle does in fact trigger, which then, you know, still gets this, and still, you know, without necessarily having to play a card with death rattle, we can still get that effect off.
Yeah, and
kicking red.
I like that it says card and not minion, so it can trigger for the weapons as well.
Very good point.
So it's not,
like,
you know,
Necron Blade or
yeah. Well, and so this one reminds me a lot of Necron Blade. So Necron Blade is a 3/2 death rattle trigger a friendly minion's death rattle. I think it's friendly minion's death rattle. And so there's shenanigans, and that's what we used to do with like Cobalt Illusionist and some of these other things. And so if we jam the old cards with these new cards, it's like, ooh, the shenanigans just got that much crazier. Granted, the deck was pretty swingy. You got some crazy swing turns, and you can also lose pretty hard. But I mean, it was just so fun. Like, we were running Kel'Thuzad in the deck. Like, who does that? But all right, you kill off your little minions and come back huge minions, and there's all kinds of shenanigans you can do. Like, how viable is it? I don't know, but it's probably it'll make a tier list. It's gonna be like tier 4, maybe maybe tier 3, but like I don't think it's straight up bad. So I kind of like it. It's a maybe for me, but I think there's some potential there.
Yeah, it's a maybe for me. In my notes, I was very much either a high 2 or a low 3.
Yeah.
And in my notes, I settled on the 2, but I think that the possibilities are enough that I can pretty comfortably bump it up from a 2 to a 3 in my official rating. So 3 officially for me. How about you, Nate?
Yeah, 3. I like it. I think that it revives this archetype. How good it is yet to be determined, but I'm going to give it the good old college try. So
there you go. Well, that brings us to the Rogue quest line, which is Find the Imposter. Of course, 1 mana, as all quest lines are. The quest line play 2 Si7 cards. There's that Si7 theme again. With the reward, add a spy gizmo to your hand. So we have 5 different spy gizmos. I will get to all of them whenever we go with Scabs.
Yeah, I've got
Master
them.
Scabs.
I've got them all, but you get them all from the end ones, so we can look at it then, I guess.
Yeah, so we'll look at them then. So then we have Learn the Truth. Learn the Truth is another, the next quest line step of play 2 more Si7 cards with the reward of add a spy gizmo to your hand. So get another gizmo. And the final step in the quest line is to play 2 more Si7 cards. And this one, the reward is Spy Master Scabs. So Spy Master Scabs is a 5 mana 7/7 minion. To battle cry, add 1 of each spy gizmo to your hand. So all of those spy gizmos, we've got a whole Rolodex of them. So the first one is Fizz Flash Detector, which is 1 mana, they all are. Return an enemy minion to its owner's hand. They can't play it next turn.
It's kind of cool.
So, zap, and even if you have the mana, too bad, you gotta wait.
Can't play it, yeah.
Just kicking rad. The next one is Hidden Gyroblade, which is a 1 mana 3/2 weapon with Death Rattle. Throw this at a random enemy minion. So I imagine it just deals 3 more damage to it, which is cool.
I love it. Like, you finish using the weapon and you throw it at somebody. That's great. It's great.
Chuck it at them. I can't wait to see the animation for that.
Right? Yeah.
So the next one is a Noggin Fog Generator, which is still 1 mana, and it's give a minion +2 attack and stealth.
These are pretty fun, and like thematically they're great.
Thematically great. Wonderful names like Noggin Fog Generator, and just the flavor is on point.
Yeah.
The next one is a Spyomatic, 1 mana, 3/2 mech minion with Battle Cry. Look at 3 cards in your opponent's deck. Pick 1 to put on top. So you basically scry for your opponent and put the thing that you want them to have the most, that they would want the least, on top of their deck.
Nice.
And finally is Undercover Mole, which is a 1 mana 2/3 beast minion with stealth. After this attacks, add a random card to your hand from your opponent's class. So they've largely gotten away from your opponents and switched it to from a different class. They went back on that one for Undercover Mole, which is awesome.
This is fun. This is fun. The quest in general feels kind of slow to me because the all of these Si7 cards, I mean, they're just like normally statted minions. So you're playing tempo. It's 2, 3, 4, 5 cost cards. And so, I mean, I think the point of these quest lines is they take a while to complete. And once you complete them, the game's over relatively quickly. Like the spy gizmos or whatever, like they're pretty good, actually. They're super fun. Thematically, they're cool. The cards aren't bad. Like when I compare them to like the Ysera cards, like these are good. But it feels so standard to me. Like if I'm gonna play this whole quest line, I'm just gonna jam it in this Si7 standard build and try it out. And I don't really see it in Wild. I mean, because it requires Si7 cards, which, I mean, I don't know. I kind of feel like why bother? Why bother to do it in Wild? Like you could, but the card, all the Si7 cards are standard anyways. Like the two that we have are core cards that are like standard anyways. So
I guess if you just want to play the new things, this is one of the new things. It won't be particularly competitive, but it's kind of cool.
The gizmos are rad. I mean, they're pretty cool.
Yeah, I will probably play this one in standard, but whereas there's some, like the Hunter quest line, that I'm really excited to play in Wild. This one, not so much. It's cool, but yeah, it's a standard card. So for the rating, for Wild, I gave Find the Imposter a 1, which is more a symptom of the Si7 cards than the requirement, because it's pretty easy to play 2 of them, or the rewards of the spy gizmos, which I think if the Si7 cards were, decent for Wild, that we would run this anyway, but it's a 1 because of the Si7 support, unfortunately. What do you think, Nate?
Yeah, I scored it a 1 too, and it's not because I don't like it. It's just because this whole thing is just straight up. Every single card is in standard. Like if we had some cool Wild exclusive Si7 cards, I'd consider a build around. But like we don't. So that's cool. Like I'll play
Si7 Ragnaros.
Oh, dude, yeah. Shadow Rose, or I don't know. Like, yeah, can you imagine an 8/8 stealth, can't attack, deal 8 damage at the end of the turn? Like, that'd be rad. That'd be so hard to kill.
That'd be incredible.
I'm still upset that they never made like the Fellfire Ragnaros, because they had the art for it. Like,
I didn't know that they had the art for it. Now I'm bummed too.
Oh, dude! Yes, it looked so rad.
Oh.
It was during the Ashes of Outland campaign, and they did Fellfire Ragnaros. It was so cool. And then they never used it. Like they made it for the poster, and that was it.
Come on!
Like,
it was in the trailer, but it wasn't in the movie.
Yeah, exactly. Rip. Okay, we've got one last card here.
Yeah, the final rogue card is Maestra of the Masquerade, which is a 2-mana 3/2 rogue minion that reads, at the start of the game, or you start the game as a different class until you play a rogue card. Like, what? This is incredible. So I have the different hero power. As long as I'm playing like neutral things, my opponent won't know that I'm doing something different. And if I'm immediately playing rogue, then, oh, hey, I got them to mulligan incorrectly, which is, could be valuable if it's like, oh, hey, I'm running Kingsbane rogue and it looks like I'm a priest. The downside, of course, is that you don't get to choose or even discover the alternate class that you would be presented as.
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
for obvious reasons, if it takes longer for your opponent to see your class, that would kind of be a dead giveaway. And the whole point of this is that you're masquerading as something else. Um, the flavor is on point because it's a rogue going undercover, pretending to be a different class. This just takes it to a whole nother level by making your own class look like that as well. So I kind of wonder how some of the things like academic espionage and stuff like that interact with Maestra. Um, so it says until you play a rogue card. So whenever I play a rogue card, do I then turn into a rogue? And so I can't get rogue things from discover something from another class.
Yeah,
I don't know.
think so. I don't know. We'll have to try it out, but it's certainly fun. Like it fits the theme of the Si7 stuff. Like it almost made me wonder. Like this should be an Si7 card.
Yeah.
Thematically.
Oh.
So yeah, I don't know. Maestra the Meme Lord. This is rad. I mean, it's super cool. One interesting side note. This is on the banned list for competitive Hearthstone. And then I looked up what is the banned list. It's just Whizbang and Zale. Like those are the only other two cards. Because it creates you like full random stuff. And so that's what this does potentially as well. And I love the side effect, like, hey, your opponent has no clue. But is it worth doing? Like, I don't know. Just for funsies, like, hey, I might throw this in Si7 standard rogue, just like for fun. But and at 2 mana, like, why not? But
one thing that I also want to try with this is with Gin, because Gin makes your starting hero power cost 1. So does that make your dagger cost 1? Does that make your hero power as the class that you're masquerading as cost 1, or both? Because typically whenever your hero power changes, it reverts back to its normal, 2 cost. So I want to try that out a little bit just to see how that interaction works.
Yeah, I assumed that it would revert back to the normal rogue one, but maybe not. I mean, I don't know. I was gonna say, yeah, I doubt they tested it. I don't know. That's that. Hey, we'll see. We'll see.
I can't wait to find out.
Yeah. So what did you score it?
I scored Maestra a 2. The flavor is all there. It's going to be really fun to play around with, but it's not going to be particularly competitive, especially since it's banned in competitive play.
Yeah,
how about you, Nick?
Yeah, I gave it a 1. I love it thematically. I just don't know that it like actually is good. It's super fun though. It was like probably one of the most fun cards in the set. I just don't know that it's really doing anything proactive aside from like confusing the heck out of my opponent. And so that's a thing. But yeah, we'll see. I like it though, and it'll be fun to play with. And that's kind of the fun part of all of this. Hey, we got new toys. Let's play with them. Let's see what they do. I wonder if they'll do what I think it's going to do, or if it's going to do something different. I guess we'll find out. So yeah, we'll see. I'm excited. I don't have a lot of high hopes for Rogue in Wild aside from the Death Rattle archetype, which I hope will revive somewhat. And then we'll play some Si7 in Standard and see how that goes, and that's probably fun too. And yeah, so we'll see.
Gonna be a blast.
Right. Yep. Yeah, so that is it for Rogue for us. We will wrap up this portion, and next up we've got Shaman.